My Left and Right Foot is definitely a very creative and unique episode of Full House. This is the 15th episode of Season 8. It's directed by Tom Rickard, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And in general, I quite liked it. It's a little different. I wouldn't like it if every episode was like this, but it was good fun. I'll talk about Jesse and Becky first of all, and then I'll go in with the main narrative that focuses on Michelle. And Jesse, Joey and Danny are singing to Nicky and Alex. It's really sweet. It's lovely to see. Nicky and Alex are adorable. They're listening. They're enjoying it. It's just such a sweet scene. And I just love seeing the three guys performing together as well. It's so beautiful. And then Becky comes along and starts to sing as well. And it's not as pleasant anymore because, well, it turns out Becky is not a great singer. And Jesse says that they have a big problem. And Joey doesn't agree. Joey says that a big problem would be if your butt fell off. Which, yeah, sure, that would be a big problem. But Jesse realises he needs to do something. So he's going to try and sneakily teach Becky to sing in key. Because he doesn't want to just come out with it and say she can't sing. He doesn't want to hurt her feelings. So he's going to go about it in a different way. And I honestly don't know. I don't disagree with his actions, but I don't know how I'd handle this. Would it really be a bad problem if she's not that great at singing? It's not as if they're performing in front of a huge crowd or anything. They're just singing for Nicky and Alex, and Nicky and Alex don't seem that bothered. And it's not like she's screeching or anything. It's not like she's the worst singer and the worst thing it's the worst thing to listen to. So I think the best solution, in my opinion, would have been to just do nothing. Because is it really that much of a big deal? But obviously Jesse is a musician. This is important to him. So he tries to trick her. He tries to give her a singing lesson. And she realizes eventually what's going on. And she admits that she knows she's not the best singer. And then she throws a load of insults at Jesse, which was a little uncalled for, but she was obviously acting out of frustration and a bit of anger, and her insults were quite creative and beautifully delivered. And then we have one of the most beautiful moments in the whole episode. I love this so much. Becky is reading a story to Nicky and Alex, and then at the end of the story they beg her for a song. And needless to say, she's not exactly feeling very confident about her singing abilities anymore. But they beg her and she agrees, and she starts singing them this beautiful, soft song that clearly has so much love behind it. And Jesse happens to overhear this. And it honestly got really emotional, and Nicky and Alex said they love her and that she's the bestest, to use their words, and it was just so beautiful. And Jesse said something that I thought was really significant. And he says, and I quote, "I was hearing the notes, but I wasn't feeling the love behind it." And this circles back to my belief that they should have just not done anything about it, because they weren't singing to Nicky and Alex to put on a great show-stopping performance. They weren't singing to try and get a record deal. They were singing to the boys because they love the boys, because they want them to be entertained, because they want them to have a good time, because they want to show that they love them through song. And Jesse ultimately realises that when he hears Becky. And it also reinforces the fact that, in my opinion, first and foremost, art of any kind, whether you're a musician, a writer, anything else, it should be about the love of that thing and the story that you're telling through that thing. And the emotions, whether it's love, anger, whatever it may be, should always be, first and foremost, more important than the talent itself. If you're talented with it, fantastic. But if you're not, it shouldn't take away from the joy you have with expressing through that particular art form. So I think it handled everything really well. I don't think Jesse handled things well, but as I said, I don't necessarily disagree with what he did, as he thought his heart was in the right place. He didn't want to hurt Becky, so he tried to help her and, well, help himself as well, so that he didn't have to listen to her. But I don't think it was the best way to take things. But ultimately, everything ended very well. And then we come to Michelle. The episode actually, interestingly, starts off in a shoe shop, in a shoe store, which is very unusual. I don't know, off the top of my head, I can't think of another introduction that didn't happen in the house. Maybe the episode where the girls have gone camping might have started at the camp when they were away for the summer. I can't remember, but certainly it's very, very, very rare that the introduction will not be in the Tanner's house. And we're actually in a shoe store, and Michelle is getting some new shoes. DJ, Stephanie and Kimmy are there, and they start making fun of Michelle's big feet. Apparently she's gone up 2 shoe sizes in the last year, and that they're making fun of her. But obviously that's natural, and I think the older girls do know that. But obviously for Michelle, she thinks that her feet are growing at an abnormally fast rate, and she starts to panic. When she gets home, she's reading a book about the biggest feet in the Book of World Records, and then she goes to bed and has this nightmare, this really, really bizarre, creative nightmare about big feet and being dressed as a clown. Kimmy comes in and calls her Pauline Bunyan, which I thought was fantastic. And it's so crazy. It's fun. The props are fabulous. And it's very different. And I imagine it would have been a lot of fun to film. Michelle's friend, in real life, now that she's awake, Michelle's friend, Lisa, comes over. She's played by Kathryn Zaremba. And Michelle tells her friend her problem. And instead of saying, of course, her friend is the same age, and instead of saying your feet are a normal size, it's fine that they're growing, her friend realizes she has to help Michelle solve her problem. So they shrink wrap her feet and put her feet in ice, because ice can reduce swelling. And it's an absolutely chaotic scene, and ultimately Danny comes to the rescue. And DJ and Stephanie realize that this was their own doing for making fun of Michelle, and they apologize to her. And it's really sweet, and obviously reinforces the message that to them it was just harmless banter. They didn't mean anything by it, but because Michelle doesn't realize that they weren't being serious about her having gigantic feet, because she's only young, it can really affect her. So, moral of the story, first of all, just don't tease anybody anyway. But if you are going to tease them, make sure they know that you're not being serious, because otherwise it could really torment them, as it did with Michelle. Danny then tells a story of how he was growing when he was younger, but his trousers obviously weren't. So there would be a gap between his shoe and his trouser, exposing his ankle, which I feel like is something most people will experience at some point. And then we end with Joey telling a story, and I was baffled because I had never heard this before. He was explaining how he looked like a toe, because people would call him Towhead, or rather people called him Towhead because he looked like a toe. And my first thought was, oh yeah, I can kind of see it. and then it was explained that they only called him Towhead because he was blonde. And I was thinking, what's that got to do with anything? Because I was still thinking Toe head. But it turns out, and I had to Google this, the saying is actually TOW head. And apparently it's a term that people who are blonde are sometimes called, and I'd never heard of that. But Joey has spent his entire life thinking he looks like a toe, which I just thought was fabulous. And I got an education there as well, because as I said, I'd never heard of the expression towhead. I don't know if it's because I'm British or because I'm not blonde. I don't know, but I was deeply amused by that, and a great way to end the episode. Ultimately, some great takeaways from my left and right foot. A very crazy, creative, chaotic episode, and it's an absolute joy.